temperatures. I know it's kind of a hot topic out here. So.
Okay.
Are live.
We're live.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. And thank you guys for tuning in for the 23rd episode of Community Conversations. This is your host, your co-host, Eric Saunders, the Green Eye Bandit. Tamika Catches could not be with us tonight, but she's out handling business around the world per usual. And we were lucky enough, for one, to have Veronica Watkins in the background producing the show, and a lady who knows everybody and was able to connect us with Ash Mack. And how are you doing today? Tell everybody who you are.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for allowing me to fill in. Thank you, V. Thank you, Tamika. My name is Ash Mack. I'm on Hot 96.3 midday, get you through your workday. Mack in the midday, that is me, as well as you probably heard me in St. Louis, as well as Cincinnati, as well as Ohio. And I do a lot of voiceover and production work throughout multiple markets. So, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful for how the city has embraced me since I've been here. And it's always just making sure to put on for Naptown and making sure to give back that love and having conversations like this so that we can continue to have these conversations and then continue to reach back and educate those that aren't aware of such things. So I'm here for the conversation and education of today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, everybody, for taking your time this Friday night. We've had some pretty great conversations throughout the 2 years that we've been doing this. And as you guys may know, this essentially was created around right after, the incident with George Floyd, the slaying. There's no incident. It was a straight up slaying, mutilation, very traumatizing event that essentially, in my opinion, led to a lot of chain reactions. A lot of people died afterwards. One of my good friends, Chris Beatty, ended up dying as a result, and just from after the protest. And I'm just like, this protest would have never happened if this didn't happen. And so it really caused a lot of mess. And here we are, almost 2 years into COVID, right? And if I might be wrong, but it feels like unity is not desired. It feels, I don't want to say we're getting worse, but working with middle school children, I'm very concerned about what's being passed down to the next generation, and their perception, rather. And so we have a great panel here tonight that's going to go deeper into this conversation, because we have a wide range of experience here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And also, if you are tuning in and you have any questions, we want you to feel a part of the conversation as well. So go ahead, and if you have a question or a comment, leave it in the comment section, and we'll make sure that we get that turned into the conversation. But first, I would like for our panelists to go around the horn and just introduce themselves. Shall I call names, or somebody want to volunteer? I'll start with you, Ms. Murphy.
I'm LaShonda. I go by Kane. I do know Ash Mack. I'm from Chicago. I've been in Noblesville for quite a while, so I have had my share of experience with being Black in an area that wasn't so accepting. And as an early childhood educator, and I work in a hospitality industry, so I've seen a lot, dealt with a lot, heard a lot. And I also get involved in the diversity, some of the different things they have up here. I have to agree with you, Eric. It doesn't seem like it's really going forward as much. It's a lot of talk and not a lot of movement. So I'm here for the conversation too. So.
Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Bill, I'm right down the street from you, so. Help! Look, I'm at the municipal court. That's the case.
That's where you're playing at.
Right. That's why I'm done. I'll tell you guys about that performance. And Robin Colvin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robin Coleman. I'm a public health nurse
And I'm also a certified diversity professional. You over in my neighborhood, Eric, I grew up in Hallville, USA. Had the typical life of someone growing up in poverty, underserved community, growing up in a neighborhood that they put the police station in, and we were treated a lot of times like everybody's a criminal because you're from the hood. And so had a lot of experience with that, but I've also had the pleasure of building connections and relationships with people who want to, who get it, that our community's in trouble and they want to be allies with us in the process. And so I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to network, and as a founder of Innovative Diversity, a consulting company for diversity, equity, and inclusion, I look forward to being able to make huge impact for the Black community in dismantling racism.
I know that's right. I'm gonna talk to you about that diversity professional. We're gonna get into that. So next, Miss Kelly.
Okay, my name's Kelly Vaughn, and I currently work for WHMB TV 40, where I do a little bit of everything. I host a show called Inside Indy. I help create shows for the station, and we have a lot of local programming, and which is a phenomenal opportunity for African Americans in our community. And then before that, I had a long career in radio, long before Ashmack. She's so young, she's a baby. But you were probably sitting, you probably weren't even born yet when I started in radio. But I used to work for 107.9 WTPI, B105.7, and then some time with Radio 1, and now at Channel 40. And so I'm just here tonight to be a part of the conversation and really to listen, and then see if in my old age, if I have any wisdom to offer the conversation.
Well, you know, and again, guys, I'm just a little bit about me. I'm a host, MC. Me and Tamika, we met through our conversation with the youth and our shows that we had with that. And so I love just talking to everybody like we just chilling on the porch. And so Kelly, Miss Kelly, Auntie Kelly, if you want to go there, then you the OG, and we look. I definitely.
OG.
Yeah, I like OG better. I was gonna say old age.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seasoned. Okay, but I like OG though. I like that.
Yeah. And, so, and last we have, look, I almost want to say brother Brackett, but we got Gary Brackett, and he think I'm going to acknowledge his career, but right now I'm just going to acknowledge his outfit, brother. We really appreciate the Frederick Douglass beard, man. I really like what you're doing there in honor of Black History Month. Go ahead and introduce and tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. Gary Brackett, current business coach, philanthropist, author, father. Also played with the Indianapolis Colts. 15 years ago, obviously, we made history, won a Super Bowl for the city. So very excited about that. But yeah, I'm also a speaker, and I speak a lot about, racism and unconscious bias and what could be done. And I think I'm excited about having a conversation because we made some strides, but I think we still got a long way to go. So anytime I can have this conversation and continue to educate people, to inspire people to act, I think I'm very encouraged by, being able to support this endeavor.
Yes.
All right, Ashmack.
I
You
just
ready?
feel like, where do you want to go with this conversation? Because there's so many ways. I think we have the experts here as well to talk about just how you got into your fields, and is that due to the impact of racism in any way and Black resilience? But I think I want to start with the fact of, why is it that Black people always have to be the bigger person? That's always the hardest part. I think all of us in general, collectively, always feel that pressure, but especially Black women in these workplaces feel that burden of having to be the bigger person because you just don't want someone to have or feel like you're trying to do something, or just have the bias of, oh, she's just the angry Black woman, or feeling some type of way or anything like that. So it's like, where do we even begin?
Yes.
Well, you heard the lady.
I know that.
Said what she said.
Well, I think a lot of why we have to be the bigger person starts with the root of us needing to assimilate in order to belong and to be respected, even within our profession. So, thinking about corporate America, if we go into corporate America with a certain kind of tone, we won't get far. We won't get where we need to be. So I think that idea of, number one, having to assimilate in order to move up. Number two, I don't know about y'all, but my grandmother raised me to not be what everybody think you're supposed to be. Well, what we have been told in general that white people think about us, we're dumb, we're ignorant, we're aggressive, and all these other things. So we were taught to represent ourselves well in public, so that we carry ourselves with dignity and pride, but also so that we don't go and shame our families.
Ooh, I knew this was gonna be good tonight. Who's next? Gary, man, come on now.
Yeah, I think she specifically said woman, but just from African American, in general, I think the challenge becomes there's so many things that are offensive. It's almost like, where do you choose to like put your stake in the ground? Mm-hmm. And because if you argue every little thing, you are gonna get labeled as that angry Black person. So I think you have to make some conscious decisions on when exactly you are going to fight, and who are you going to fight, and then understanding like the person you're going to have that conversation with, are they even open to the dialogue, and will it even matter? So I think there's so many considerations you have to make before you voice your opinion at work, because oftentimes the people that you're talking to is not going to change anything. So I think that's why we got to make some real distinctions about, when we speak up, how we speak up, and even if it's worth speaking up. So I think that's why it's so challenging, and we got to make that decision to be the bigger person, because, we're not going to oftentimes have the ability to continue to rise. Can y'all see me? Did my video drop off?
Yeah. It did. Oh, it's all good. We hear you.
Sweet.
Now you're back. Good.
All right.
Oh, was he done then?
I was finished.
Oh, okay. Because Gary, you said a key word there, fight. And one thing I think about, and when it comes to fighting for the cause of Black people, and you let me know if I've missed it. One thing I think that we could do more of is that we have to fight, but we have to also realize that people, white people or anybody, they're human. And so when we go to fight, the first thing, and it doesn't matter whether it's white people or in your own family, people get on the defensive. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I sometimes feel that, especially in this day and age, since there has been a lot of progress, we have had a Black president. Okay. And as much as we like to think there were enough Black people to vote him into office, there are not enough Black people in this country to put him in office. So there are a lot of white people that are on our side, but I don't hardly ever hear people acknowledge that I think sometimes if we give credit where credit is due, with the good things where those who have supported us and we're giving them shout outs and support, that might break some of that down to think, they're mad and they're angry. And if you say, man, I surely appreciate what you did. Now I'm gonna go tell you what else I don't like. And that would be the same thing in an argument in your home with your spouse. Honey, you're a great cook, but I got a problem with this over here. You do that with anybody. And I don't hear that very often. And so I don't know, do you all think that it has been a part of the conversation or that it hasn't, and if it hasn't, should it be?
I'd say I think it has been overlooked. I'll say for myself personally, because sometimes, like you say, the fight, you get so stuck on, I'll speak for myself. Every day I'm choosing the battle. And it's like, I don't want to go to war every day. So it's one of those, you wouldn't quite understand if I had this conversation with you, or it wouldn't even matter to you if I did. So it's like learning to just lay it down. Again, be the bigger person. It's not, and sometimes you don't want to be, because it's an issue that'll continue to be ongoing if you don't have that conversation. And that's not what you want, because then those feelings start to come in play. And we as women, we're vocal. We don't mind speaking up. And then that's when we start to look like the angry Black woman, when you've been holding things in that you should have had said long time ago, instead of letting them pile. But I don't think that has been, Kelly. Speaking of myself, I'm thinking about even the things that I say in my house or to the kids, like, maybe I can do a little bit more of the giving credit where it's due sometimes too. So, yeah.
Start off with that, yeah. And I think that takes a defensive wall down if you want somebody to hear you. It doesn't matter if they're Black, white, male, female.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good way to start off. And I don't think I don't hear it that often. I did see on Facebook today, they were talking about Black history facts, and they had a picture of a white gentleman who fought for our cause, and I thought that was cool. Like, okay, because I know somebody did something. You know, we need to hear that too. And I think, in fairness to white people, I don't think we do.
I think what it is for us is sometimes we tend to think, is that sincere, or are you doing it for a show? I have to say that because sometimes I've been in places where I've seen that was just for show and it wasn't sincere. So it causes you to kind of question and doubt the sincerity of whatever that act or that gesture was. Like, and if it's not sincere, why am I even going to acknowledge that? Why do I need to give? You just want the attention. So,
you know, to your both of your points, and I think this is a great part about it, because if we're going to differentiate it. And the sincerity of it, a lot of people do not, again, know the history and what history. You have white people who played in, you know, helping somebody with with freedom. You know, we served on Underground Railroad, who had served in legislation. You know, somebody maybe in the town, you know, civil rights, and it's astonished me just how much white people do not know. How many white people said, no, we've been doing the right thing against this. And to that point, I think I saw that same post, have sacrificed and have died for this cause too. Now, I think with the lack of sincerity comes now is, since that time, you've had so many ways in which racism has reared its head from decade to decade in different fashions, and how it's really been, institutionalized with us, to where I think some people are just looking in the media, and your interaction with Black people might be totally, unintimate, in that you just do good intentions. You're doing it for good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need good intentions. And, like, you can only do so much,
Right.
Appreciate you, but, oh, wait a minute, getting a little bit loud, and so I think people need to know the difference between sincerity and just good intentions. So great point, Auntie. Is that all right? I'm just I'm just saying that for this, in case you made reference to this nephew.
I just feel like all the points are valid, but aren't we tired as a collective? Like, aren't we tired? That's what it comes down to. And I do think credit is necessary to give credit where credit is due. But also, when we mentioned George Floyd and how we all saw his murder happen live stream, we saw it happen in real time on social media. I mean, and then you saw people collectively, all shades, of all colors, come together and protest nationally and internationally. I think it's different when you start to see people that aren't Black and brown, that are on the front line with us, along with us. But when it comes to that point of having the national attention, the international attention, that's when it starts to change people's minds. Because how many times have we heard of stories like George Floyd that's happened to our cousins, that's happened to our sons, that's happened to brothers, and got no recognition at all? It's like, why is it that once it finally gets to certain people's hands, or when it finally gets to someone telling their story of what happens while protesting, now it has the nation's attention? But when he was actually being killed, that didn't get enough attention by itself. It's just crazy when you think about it like that.
I think you're right, but I think it did get attention by itself because it was because we did see it.
It was wrong
on video. Because we're thinking about Rodney King, but it still was not the same as that. I think you're right, definitely right. But I think the fact that it was there for everybody to see, I think it touched a nerve in a lot of people. And like you said, even outside of this country, all over the world. But yeah.
And like you said, I'm interested that you brought up Rodney King with that, because I mean, as soon as you said that, I saw it. But I saw three, four men beaten. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, with George, like you're one man, other guy behind you, your knee is literally on his neck, like you're unmercifully. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does this have to do with? And Ashmack, listen, I hear you, and I think and I appreciate that energy, because I think if we go around it, we're going to touch on this, on the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, because like I said, we're tired. Then it's like, but where do we get the energy to keep fighting? And how do we keep fighting, or how do we take maybe I'm never going to not want to fight, but I realize I'm not going to be able to fight the same way. We're going to have to strategize there. We're going to have to really look at the infrastructure and how we make impacts and really chip away at it.
So a few things to add, right? So I think with the killing of George Floyd, I think it was like a perfect storm at times of COVID hit, like sports were shut down, and they didn't have all the distractions that we have now, right? So that same incident that happens today, it doesn't garner that same attention because we have all the distractions, sports are on TV, other things are happening. So it doesn't really get that national news, because there's been other instances of similar situations that didn't garner that much attention. And to your point about fighting, I think we have to be strategic about what we're asking for. And I think fighting just to fight, I think it's old, right? What are the solutions that we're after? And until we're after we come to a collective and really agree on what the ask is, we're so fragmented because everyone is going in their own little silos trying to ask for their own individual things, where we don't have this collective voice of what exactly we're looking for. And I think, it's hard to fight a battle when we're so fragmented and we're fighting on so many different, fronts. Whereas I think we need to come together and really have a strategy on what it is that we want. And how do we fight for that? Like now, we're battling in the legislation. They're putting forth these bills about critical race theory and when and how they're going to teach kids about what happened in their history, which is the most, which is systematic racism at its finest, right? That they actually want to do away with teaching about it. So I think this is the time where we can't get weak. We can't get fatigued. This is the time that we really need to really come together and have some strategy behind what we're doing, because if that goes away, in 10, 15 years, they're going to constantly discredit. Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's nothing to happen to you. Why Black people have the same advantage as everyone else. And that, all that systematic racism that we know exists and know that we're in the position that we're in, I think that's what needs to happen in terms of the fighting. We got to be strategic, because right now there's too many fights going on, and we can't win like that.
Right. I agree with you. So what does that fight look like to you, in your opinion?
So for me, I think first we need to figure out what exactly we're looking for, right? And second, I think we need to hold ourselves and our communities as accountable as we're holding everyone else. Because I think people don't really take us seriously, where, a cop kills one of us and we go crazy, we march, but we kill one of us and we don't do nothing. It's business as usual. I ain't snitching. So I think that's the first conversation. Can we police ourselves in the same manner that we're policing everyone else? Right. The secondarily, what is that conversation that we need to have to reach back and build our young men, our young women, right, and have those mentors? There's a lot of us that are successful, but never reach back and give back and teach the next generation. And then we just think it's the school system and someone else. So I think that educational piece is extremely important. And then the financial piece, at the end of the day, right, you got to follow the money. And if we don't have the economic impacts to really make a difference, to really provide the job opportunities, to provide the upskilling, to provide, the climbing the corporate ladder, you're going to constantly have that silence amongst our people, because hell, if I say something, I'm gonna get fired. Where am I gonna get this job at again? Right. So I think those combination of things that just as a starter, I think we need to put in place in order to really, have a strategic plan on changing what we're facing.
Ladies and gentlemen, he said what he said, and I wanted to just make sure we got viewers watching. So to Tookie Murphy, She said, yes, Gary, I've been waiting on this conversation. Candace Coleman said, we're too busy fighting for every cause outside of our own. So I think you guys are definitely hitting that head on. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Gary, because I got a backlash from a couple of friends. And, you know, I don't really like going to that Facebook fighting and all that mess. But I said the same thing, like, I get it. Police are killing us, but how do we address how we're killing us? And somebody was like, well, those are two different things. Like, it might be two different things for you. But I'm older than I look, believe it or not. I had the choice of get to IU to major in business or African American studies. I probably should have did both. But in learning African American studies, man, I've been traumatized with just learning the history of who we are, step by step, and it's all encompassing. So it's all encompassing. So Robin, it seemed like you wanted to say something, speak on it.
Baby, I'm just sitting over here with my mind going a mile a minute.
All the way through the screen. I got to say something.
Oh man, I mean, first of all, with Ashmack's comment about we being tired, yes, we are tired. But us being tired and continuing to push and be able to even have a platform like this shows our resilience as a culture, number one. Number two, with the strategy, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's this statistics that says when it comes down to where people fall on the spectrum of, you know, their acknowledgement or acceptance or willingness to move forward with anti-racism, there's a 20-60-20 rule where 20% are totally against it. 60% are kind of like, I'm on the fence. I could learn more. We'll see how this goes. And then the other 20 is like, yes, I'm with you. We need to do something about this, right? So the idea about like, how do we really move forward in building allyship and acknowledging the people that helped us along the way is extremely important, because the reality of it is, it's just not enough of us. And we don't have the power. We're not in positions of power. Even when you think about who's in the political system, there's not enough of us to really do it. And then, quite frankly, this is what my sister says to me: all skin folk ain't kin folk. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, you got people that are up there who are for their own agenda and not really considering like the struggle of Black America. Now, I'm going to tell you, I grew up in the hood and I was bussed out to Ben Davis, where there were Black folks who grew up middle class. I didn't know what life was outside the hood until I got exposed to them. And so I remember going to school and saying, like, why are y'all talking white? You know, and all this and that. And so now I'm at a position now where I have a greater understanding of how pretty much I internalize. So this is internal racism that we as the Black community have, how we see things from the same idea that our oppressors have, because of our ignorance and knowledge. So you have to, strategy is number one, you do need to go and build allyship with people who can help us, but we also have to know ourselves. Like, we can't, when you talk about Black on Black crime, if you're not able to peel back the layers and see how Black on Black crime actually goes back to slavery, what are we really talking about? Like, you can't start with just mentorship or just advocating that, you know, it's a good place to start. Let me say that, because I will tell you, I've had a desire to mentor my whole entire life, but it's deeper than that. And so if you got people who are mentoring, who are still on the surface and not able to really understand structural racism, internalized racism, all these things and how they really work together, then we really are, to some extent, will even do the youth a disservice. And we've made strides as a nation, but this is how I feel. I feel like if I see white folks eating and I'm starving, I'm not going to be sitting at the table like, oh, thank God he gave me these crumbs. Now I can survive. I can survive because he at least shared with me a little bit. I'm sitting up there looking like, why you get to eat fat and I don't? So when I approach this, it's a matter of doing what's right because it's the right thing to do. So you have to, when it comes down to strategy, you have to think about who are those low-hanging fruits, those 20% who are definitely with you all the way. Then you got to look at those 60% and try to see if you can change their mind. Working on the 20% who are just like gung-ho, like not with it, you deal with them on the backlash. But at the same time, we as a community really have to look at our own internalized racism and how we play a part in that. because what we're doing is blaming the youth when the reality of it is half of us ain't had great role models, number one, within ourselves. We what is it, when you call the victim, I can't think of the word that I'm trying to use, but we don't understand the empathy that it takes when people that look like us are out there committing crimes, and understand how they got to where they are. And when you start peeling back layers, all of them are going to lead back to slavery and our internalized racism. All of them are. And so us right here, need to start with really looking at ourselves and where we are even on that process. And I will tell you, like, I really started doing DEI work probably around 10, 12 years ago, but really on a surface level. It wasn't until like recently that I really delved in and really start taking a look at it. And not just the diversity trainings that is going to make you acceptable to be able to speak in corporate America, right? Because they want you to give them stuff that will help them be comfortable as they get adjusted to this new change that's coming. But really looking at like DEI, anti-racism, white supremacy, internalized racism, and what we really need is emotional emancipation for ourselves. And that's why I want to shout out to the Community Healing Network and founder, Miss Anola, because she had this idea that we, before we can really get on our journey, we have to understand the lie of white superiority and the truth about, excuse me, I'm misquoting this wrong, the lie of Black inferiority and white superiority. And so I took one of those trainings with her, and it was amazing. It was eye-opening. But we really need to start with us, but not necessarily, I'm not saying that you can't hold people accountable to their actions, but what I'm saying is there's always a why, and we need to continue to peel back the layers and work down there.
The show is open. Robin,
I have so many questions for Ms. Robin now, but you know,
right?
Get to it. If you're just joining us, thank you. If you're just joining us, make sure to leave comments below. We're streaming Facebook Live for community conversations. We're talking about the impact of racism and Black resilience. Now, Ms. Robin, you mentioned so many things, but you know, I have so many layered questions, but number one, let's start with this, with a statement. I think we have to talk about, of course, how slavery plays a part in everything, but what people don't take a part in is how it has directly impacted Indiana and the state of Indianapolis. People don't talk about how it still affects people to this day. Being that the KKK was founded here, that still segregates people and keeps them in their corners in 2022. Now, me being a transplant, I'm from New Jersey. I think it's easier for me to see that, you know, people are born and raised here. They don't leave. If they leave, they come back because it's easy. It's easy to. I can have a decent paying job and afford to have housing, a car, and everything else. But on top of that, I see everybody that I've known from high school. I can stay in my corner, and that's it. I don't have to think about anything else. I'm not going to try this over here because I know what happens on this side of town, and I'm going to stay here, right? But it's like, what do we do with trying to keep people or hold them accountable, right? When they want to stay surface level. You know, you're talking about trying to dive deeper in these type of conversations because it's necessary. Because if we don't, guess what happens? History continues to repeat itself. But if people don't want to dive deeper with you and they just want to stay in the matrix, you know, what do we do then?
When you say those people want to stay there, are you referring to white people stay on the surface? Is that what you mean?
That honestly can be for Black, white, all in between. Like, people just want to stay where they're at. There's no way possible for us to have allies. There's no way possible for us to continue to fight the good fight when people don't want to educate themselves on the past, aren't taking the initiative to pass down stories, aren't taking the initiative just to know the history and the foundation of our city that we live in. You know, where do we go when people don't want to take those steps that's necessary because I'm comfortable how I'm living right now?
I think that I've been talking about this to some folks about how to educate people, because I know we think, first of all, the school system, but I think what's even more powerful than what's taught in school is what's done in the media. And Black people oftentimes don't know because we've not, you know, now we have Dewan Boyd to Channel 8, and thank God for him. But that it is about taking our messages and putting them on Hot 96, putting them on 99.5 with Smiley. We don't understand the concept of that. In order to convey your message, to educate people, you have to buy the time. In working in television, I realize now that that's how, like, we're doing Black History Moments on Channel 40, and there are tons of them because I have people, Bill Mays' family invested with us to put his message out so that we keep his legacy alive. It costs. So a lot of times we sitting around waiting on them to do it. Well, they should do that because it should be fair. Okay, yeah, in a perfect world, but we can also do that too. And we think about who influences our children, their children, more than books in school is the media, whether it's through music, what they hear. You think about how kids have changed and what they're doing now. So why aren't we taking those opportunities, whether it's social media or television or radio or however they're getting the messages, and sent those messages through children, to children through those mediums, instead of thinking about just the school. And I know I get kind of touching on critical race theory, and I don't necessarily want to get into that, but first of all, we keep pounding on that. I would let it go, come off of it, let it go. Because the more we do that, the more they get defensive and start doing things. Leave it alone. Sometimes, first of all, you can't tell everybody what you're doing. Just be cool, let it go. And then find other ways to get those messages out and come back around there. Just do it. Don't talk about it, just do it. But I think we can send positive messages out there, but we don't understand the concept of having to buy it. Or like when Tyler Perry, he knew he had to create, he had to buy it. He has to pay money to put those messages out there. It costs money. When I was a kid, they used to have a campaign called "You Got to Pitch In to Clean Up America." And I was a kid, you just throw trash on the floor, but it had a little American Indian and he was crying. Well, it costs money to put that message. But I'm telling you, a lot of people in this country don't litter anymore because of that American Indian crying on TV. But somebody had to pay for that message. And we don't understand that it costs money to put those messages out there. But if I wanted white people anywhere to understand, and I think would change my attitude and be more open, is if they would appreciate the sacrifice of slaves, that they understand what really happened. Because you wonder, like, why wouldn't anybody appreciate that? And I don't think I've appreciated enough personally. They're like soldiers. They're like, just like you have American soldiers that sacrifice their life, they're veterans. They're just a different kind of veteran. They're actually deserve more attention and praise and remembrance than sometimes a veteran, because they died for nothing. They didn't get nothing. They didn't get no benefits, no parade. They don't get nothing. And they made a tremendous sacrifice, 200 years of free labor. Well, you better be the #1 country in the world, because we all know if we had 5 years of free labor to pay our lights and bills, we'd be in great shape in 5 years. So 200 years, you better be the richest country in the world. So to know that we were a part of that building, but if I think if white people would just appreciate slaves, to take a moment and say, wow, these people sacrificed for our country just like veterans do. And then I think that would help break some of that down, because I think that's what we feel, is that you don't appreciate the sacrifice and the damage that was done as a result of what you did. So.
And I feel like it's the facing the hatred inside. And I said, let's face it. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Inside, I like to believe that there's still a soul inside of you. And and it's, so interesting because, the conversation tends to go black, white. And interesting enough, I had a lady come to sub teach, and she was from Senegal. And but she lived in France, learned, speaks 3 languages. And our students, talking about the youth, right? Just is kind of just stuck on, this, oh, that's his African lady, she's from Africa. And again, that disconnect. But then I always think to myself, when it comes to does anybody here want to go back to Africa and stay and live? And because there's a lot of people who from Africa who do not understand the history. Right.
I was married to an African and I appreciate it, but I don't necessarily want to go move there. I visited. My ex is from Nigeria. So. Got you.
Would you say that, am I correct in saying that the perception is a lot of people who are from the African continent are not well versed in the American history, but I also want to be mindful that there was colonism that took place in a lot of the African countries as well. So there's some responsibility there as well. So
My ex knows more American history, all of it, than I do personally. And they were a British colony. I don't know where he got all the knowledge from, but he knows so much stuff. So
let me because I talked about this with my good friend. He's Nigerian, right? And we just talked about, you know, how people from Africa, you know, how if you think about it, and I've saw this, they come over here and they think they're better than the blacks that are from the US, right? And a lot of that, of course, is systematic racism, and go back to the Willie Lynch, whether or not that was true or not, right? Something happened where it was definitely systematic about how we were portrayed. And I get that. The challenge becomes is that we get into these conversations, and in my opinion, I think we're selling past the clothes. And what I mean by that is that, like, people want to make an impact. They want to find a solution to change what's going on. And if we continue to have the conversation on how it impacted us or what happened here, they're turned off, and then there's no solutions on the table. Now they leave the table and nothing gets done. Because every time we get to the table, we want to tell them how bad they are. And I think we have to have, it's not an or thing, I think it's an and thing. Yes, we have to educate them about exactly what went on and how it impacted us. At the same time, we have to look for our future, because we've spent so much time looking back about what happened and how it affected us. I get that. What are we going to do now to change it? And it's not enough conversation happening about what are we going to do to educate ourselves, to put ourselves in position to buy that TV time, put ourselves in position to have our own schools to educate people. We keep on talking about, you know, what happened to us. I get it. But what are we going to do? So I think that enough is not, in my opinion, happening about that. That's why, for me, I'm in these rooms, right? I'm fortunate. I'm in these rooms where people are making decisions about how much dollars are getting spent in what communities and how they view different people, right? And I'm fighting for us, but it's not enough of us in these rooms because we don't have the education, we don't have the wherewithal, or whatever the case may be. So I'm saying, like, we need solutions that we actually agree on and we're moving towards. And I think we can't just tell them what they did to us. I think they know, right? They saw the history books, right? And if not, maybe they don't want to know. But
that's it. There you go.
So is that ultimately, though, going to get us what our outcome is? So we have to figure out, like, what outcome do we desire? If our outcome is to become, more diverse, if our outcome is to have more equity, right, and more connection and more allyship, how do we get there the most efficient way? I just don't think it's telling them how bad they were 500 years ago.
See, I feel like the conversations are different when it comes to, from what I've seen personally, when it comes to African Americans versus Africans. And honestly, I just don't have the energy for it, because at the end of the day, the rest of the world is going to see us like we look alike. You know, at the end of the day, how the rest of the world views us is that, okay, you're Black. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you're lucky you were able to pinpoint your roots and where your family comes from and everything else. And I am still trying to figure it out. So I don't even try to give energy to that, because at the end of the day, regardless if you know where your family is from and I'm still figuring it out, we're still from the same area. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we still have to come together to fight the same battles and fight the same issues in the States and outside of the States. So to me, it goes back to what you were saying, Gary, about having strategy, about creating the solutions, because number one, yes, talking about it is necessary, but more importantly, it's not just talking about it, it's talking about the history that we know that's been passed down. And I don't necessarily think depending on history books are always going to work, because those are limitations based off of a European school system that now we can't even teach, or they don't want to discuss during 1 month of the year. So those are all different conversations, but I'm here for strategy and solution. So I think the best way to start with that is, Eric, maybe we should read a few comments from Facebook, because I think there's a few comments there.
I'm seeing one particularly, we've been going back and forth, but you brought up some interesting points, and I'm thinking about perception. And Lisa on our chat just really kind of want to know, With the recent knowledge that several southern states want to bring down Confederate statues and memorials, she's interested in the perception or the reality of the feeling about this from the panel and maybe from the African American community. How do you feel like this? What does this do?
I say leave them up and put the truth right next to it and see if they can deal with that. Put right up there next to his name what he did, because when you take it down, that takes away the opportunity for my people to learn what these people did. So leave it up there, but tell the truth right there. And I don't think they would like that, but that really puts it front and center. Okay, you can keep it, but tell the whole story. Put the plaque up there. He killed so many people. He did this. He slaughtered. He had slaves. Just put the truth up there.
But what would keeping the statue do?
Say what?
I said, what would keeping the statue do? Because I'm thinking like, that's representation. If I'm seeing this statue that's somewhat being glorified by a city, we have how many buildings, how many streets, how many schools named after these Confederate officers, then it's like built off of perception. What would you automatically think that person is?
I agree with you, but I'm saying if I'm standing there looking at it and I read all this horrible stuff he did, it is allowing people to see it. It makes a point to them that, okay, if you want to leave it up, and we're going to tell you, the deal is we got to tell the truth, tell everything he did, and see how cute that looks. Ain't cute no more.
I see where you're going with that, Kelly. That makes some sense. I get it, because everybody won't be in the school building to be able to hear the stories or read the textbooks. So to be outside, even as a tourist and you're visiting, here's this massive grand statue. Well, I can get the whole truth. Because they're only going to show you the parts they want you to see. It's no different than
because they don't want you to know the truth. In fact, they don't even really understand that truth. So that to putting that there, saying really the true story with it, and I agree with you as well, Ashmack. What you're saying, you're right. Sometimes things are both things. I think that's something in this country that like even whether it's the abortion issue, whatever. Sometimes it is both. You're absolutely what you're saying. You are absolutely right. And I'm just kind of bringing up another, thought that, okay, if it makes them so happy to leave it up. Okay, fine. But we're going to put a plaque under there telling the real deal or a video and see how they might not think that's a good idea. Now we want to take it down. We don't want nobody to know that. No. We're going to leave them up and we're going to tell the real story. But, but you're absolutely right that it does appear like, people are glorifying him and lifting him up. And it's that you're right. It's that too.
Can I say something? Because I wanted to touch base on a few things, but I think I'm going to get lost here because it was so much. Now it'll come back up when it needs to. But one thing I think we lack is the conversations in our own homes. As an educator, I remember having parents tell me, "Oh no," I was like, "Well, you can't wait and let your teacher be your kid's first instructor. That starts at home." And in the same sense, I think we let that go, that responsibility go as parents or aunts or aunties, uncles, whatever. We let that responsibility go and we leave it to the school system. We leave it to the social media. We leave it to every outside source. So we, again, go back to holding ourselves accountable for having conversations. My kids were lucky to still have their grandmother. And I used to tell them, have those conversations, because we didn't find out till later in our years that my mother's great grandmother was a slave. So saying, Mom, when we go back to Selma, can you take the kids and show them some of the places where you marched? My mother marched with Martin Luther King Jr. on that at Pettus Bridge that they so glorified in the movie. She went and showed the kids the church where they stayed, the different places where they walked and they hid at. My mother was on a bridge on that Bloody Sunday where she lost friends. So being able to start those conversations at home amongst the grandkids, the kids, or whoever, to let them see, you don't wait to go to school to learn half history. I want to say half-ass history because they don't give you the whole truth. So just to kind of get, so that way it kind of becomes more meaningful also. And Ashmack, like you're not from Indy. I'm not from Indy. I'm sorry, Indiana. I'm not going to be a Hoosier. But being here, I've learned a lot just seeing. It's like, it's segregated in itself. I come here and I told the kids, I'm not building a house if I have to live in one of these communities. To me, that's segregation. You got a whole city, but then you got all these little towns inside the cities, which are these housing communities. So you got those of certain financial status that live in this particular subdivision, then those with less. And it's like, you're still dividing the people within one space. If this is our township, I grew up in Maywood. So Maywood was Maywood. I lived on this street. I lived on this block. That's how it was. And I come here and I'm clearly able to see it firsthand, like really quick, because I'm not used to that. And it's one of those, why would we do that? What is the purpose of that? Like, I don't know. I thought that was very weird and awkward and unusual. And I think it was just a way of still keeping in your own, like you said, Ashmack, staying in your corner, staying in your space, your comfort zone, amongst those that you're comfortable with, if that makes sense. So,
and to your point, and to Gary's point, we talk about this, the housing, discriminating, and Gary's point, man, follow the money. That gets us to the conversation of the bills that was passed, the GI Bill, who had accessibility in the development of these suburban communities, and just how it just kind of has repeated itself in this now, because now we're having a conversation about gentrification. When I honestly believe that conversation about gentrification took place probably in the 60s and 70s, really just kind of forecasting, understanding how to build these houses. So, yeah,
So I just want to jump in real quick, because I would think we're kind of winding down, but, we were talking earlier about, what happened to George Floyd and the impact of that. And again, this is really off the subject, so this may be the next conversation. So I don't know if she wants us to all come back and continue it. But the one thing that does bother me, and I'm all for Black Lives Matter, and I hate what happened to him. But to me, a problem that's just as pressing is the treatment of women. And as much as I hate what happened to him, and it happens to a lot of Black men and sometimes even Black women, being harassed by police officers. I've even gone through it myself recently over here at 86 in Michigan not too long ago. But, and I don't mean to belittle that cause at all, but let's say every month, 2 Black men are killed by a police officer. Since you and I have been sitting here, there are countless women, probably at least 5 in the whole country, that just died while we were talking because she's female. And so I think that we need, because if I was 6'10" and 400 pounds, nobody's gonna mess with me. That's taking advantage of whether it's size or stature, the mistreatment of women, or how we're dying. And everybody walks around like it's normal. I just read one today, some guy killed I don't know if it's his wife, his girlfriend, with a machete. But where's the march for that? I don't understand it. I mean, every day, because you're female. Because if you were packing heat or 6'10" or 400 pounds, ain't nobody gonna mess with you like that. So again, I just want to. I think that deserves some attention at some point, and that people don't really talk about that. When we just see it, I think we get used to it. Or like, it used to be legal to beat your wife. And I'll tell you this, when I started in news years ago as a reporter, there were domestic violence cases, and I was told by a female news director that we don't cover that. That's a personal problem over there. So I know it's happened. It's like that's between him and her. We're not going to get in that. And see, now they don't do that. They'll report it. But back then I was trained, you don't even cover that. Just like I was also trained, you don't cover suicides. Now that has even shifted, the whole mental health thing. So I know what I'm saying is, that it's real, that I've lived it through, coming up younger and seeing how it was treated and how it's treated now. But I do think that's something that has to be addressed, and what are we going to do about that? But that's another show.
That is another show, but I think it starts here too, especially when you're talking about Black history and it comes to representation. So I would ask you, when it comes to media, how would you go about having more representation of these type of topics, representation of Black newscasters or anchors, or just a representation of being able to tell these authentic stories the way you would have it right here with us?
Well, I would be a little biased working for Channel 40. And as Gary Brackett knows, he was actually at our station recently. We probably produce more local television shows than anybody in the city, state, or country. And I never even realized that you can buy time. If you want to create something with us, you can do it. But I would think even DeJuan Boyd would be open to that. I think that it's coming to the awareness that there's a lot of power in the press or in the media, and being able that time for those messages, whether it be with films or through music. We were talking about how do we tell our kids about slavery? Were any of the rappers doing stuff on, mixing those messages? I'm sure they probably have every now and then, but they can teach. We learn a lot by what rappers say, whether it's about history or they talk about we talk about Tupac or whatever. So why don't we put those messages there? So whether it's through music, whether it's through television, whether it's through news, but a lot of it is coming to the awareness that you can buy that time. Often we buy time for commercials, but we don't think about buying time for messages. Tomorrow I could create maybe this, like you're saying, the message about women. I can create something about that. And I promise you, if I call TLC radio and said, I want to do this series and I'm going to spend money, I put money on it, they'll buy it. And they'll allow me to buy it, and then they will air it. But I just think we've not come to that awareness that we've sat around and waited for them to do it, and they have done it. So I think we need to come into that knowledge of that. On a lot of platforms, you can buy that time. And again, there are a lot of messages that have gone out over television over the years as I was coming up, and I do things based on those messages. We were talking about Africans earlier. A big deal, a lot of their thinking about who we are comes from when I go over there, they're watching something maybe that was on back in 1975 or 62. And so a lot of times they come here, they got the impression that whatever white people or Europeans are sending to that message to other parts of the world, and some of that negative stuff, especially from back then. And that's what they're seeing. And they come here and think, oh, it's like that now. And so, but that'll tell you the power of the messages through television shows, man. And it isn't, again, just Black people. The message that you see on television for women. I watch a lot of the show Bewitched, and she's home all the time. Here she is, really the star of the show. She doesn't go anywhere. She's in the house all the time. And Dick York goes out and does his job. It's just interesting. Like, it's just so sexist. So it's the same way. So it's sexist in a lot of ways. It's racist, but that was a television show. It was a sitcom that was forming who we are. And so whether it's through television, through film, Tyler Perry, there's a message in that we can send through those mediums.
I think I definitely agree with this in the molding of our perception. I took some time this week just to show my scholars just some mold. I showed them the video of Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby. And just tell them this was when I fell in love with hip hop, because even as a 9-year-old, it brought me into a whole different type of consciousness that these things are going on. And what it did was, in a sense, he did a great job at that moment, using his moment, using that music and his platform to rear me and other kids, just to say, hey, probably shouldn't be out here having sex. People out here doing crack. People are throwing away babies, and I'm just like, wow. And it created a sense of empathy in me. Whereas, again, I think a lot of perception right now in the music that the youth are accessible to, there's no empathy in it. Ask some kids to start freestyling. First thing you start talking about, I put a Glock to your back, shoot your back out, this, that together, and drop it like it's hot. Now, I'm like, wait a minute. I know this ain't this. And so I can't be surprised that, again, I understand the power of communication. And the power.
Go ahead.
Gary, or who chimed in? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that you're absolutely right. I worked in radio for 25 years. I worked in white radio. I was one of the first African-American women. There was a woman before me who was a news person and a news director, but I went there on purpose because I understood the power that was in that anchor seat. Okay. And I didn't know when I got there that I was going to be a morning news anchor and the news director, but I ended up being on a morning show. We had billboards and the whole bit. But I did understand at a very young age the power of being able to sit there and talk about whatever that's going on in the news. And it's not that I didn't want to be at Radio One, but I did want to be where I knew the mayor was definitely going to be listening, that the governor was definitely going to be listening, and that to have that opportunity for 18 and a half years. I worked with a gentleman named Steve Cooper, and Chris Wright, who's the weather guy, used to do mornings with us. But I realized that that was the best feeling, to get up every morning and know that I was influencing people in the city based on whatever we were talking about. Sometimes it was my opinion. Sometimes it was the joke we cracked. But so that's why, Ashmack, you got a lot of power, sister. You got a lot of power. You know, and so the question is, what do we do? What do we do with that power? So it's your thoughts or messages, or, you know, it's Black History Month, whatever you do. I don't know what everything you're doing on your shows, but when we realize, wow, I got the power to influence people, that is just incredible. So to me, yeah, it's one thing for us if we had jobs, but it's another thing when we own things and we start to own shows or television stations, and that's where the power is, to influence people. Think about Oprah Winfrey, because really Barack Obama is president because of Oprah Winfrey. So when Oprah said that's it, Oprah's her little beehive, they just flocked to him. That's some serious power. And you think about Nixon being dethroned as a president. Who did it? It was the press. So whether it's being in media, being on the air, that's a lot of power. So what do we do with that power to convey messages to people? And again, they've always controlled it, but little by little, you know, we're filling in those positions. And so when we have that, what are we going to do?
When you talk about positions, and Robert, I just wanted to flip it to you. And guys, we are at 8:10, so we're going to be winding down. Thank you guys who are viewing. But Robert, I wanted to flip it to you, because we talk about positions. We've seen a whole lot of diversity and equity positions, as if that's the solution. And I like to say, we'll talk offline. But why do you think this is, and what are people's expectations now? You see the growth of the work.
Let me make sure I understood you correctly.
There's a growth in diversity, equity. Well, they didn't put the E in there now, when it used to be DI, and then it used to be just diversity. Mm-hmm. But now you're seeing jobs come all over the place, right? Whether people qualify, not qualified, whatever. We need a diversity. What are the expectations? You know, what are your expectations? What do you think employers' expectations in terms of, because it's supposed to be doing it so it can help.
It is. A lot of organizations are being reactionary instead of proactive, which, you know, we as employees have been advocating for the equality and the inclusion, and to increase the diverse workforce. We've been advocating, they've been not listening, because we're not in power. We're not at the decision-making table. And so a lot of what you see is very reactionary, and you do have companies that are saying, let me do this because this is what they want us to do. And they are putting people in positions that are not qualified to actually lead. That is very, very, very true. And so I will tell you, you know, how I got into the work is just my lived experiences, being vulnerable and transparent with my colleagues about my experience of coming into corporate America, my feelings and my concerns, even before I got here, because of what I was told. And so, and then the impact of when you don't have a diverse workforce that is serving the underserved community, underrepresented community, making decisions for us, and you don't really know our plight, you know, you don't understand how you can inadvertently cause more harm than you can actually help. And I think that's what a lot of what has been going on. And so in my opinion, DEI work is very pivotal to us actually turning things around. And again, it speaks to that low-hanging fruit. Just imagine if literally we could get those 60% on board with understanding why this work is so important. We got the 20% that's already supporting us, but then that other 60% that's really like, okay, I'll listen, you know, how much influence and impact can we have, you know, when we have 80% total, rather than the few of us that's going around asking for us to be treated equitably or with equality and to have seats at the table. And so I think it's extremely important. In the work that I'm doing, I focus a lot of my work on helping my colleagues understand implicit bias. It's so surface level, but it's extremely important, because if they don't really even get that a lot of stuff that they're thinking and saying is really unconscious, and they're not getting the education about what the true history of the United States is, period. I mean, you'd be surprised how many times I have my colleagues like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I did not know this. This is right right up under my nose. And you got people who are like ashamed, who are equally upset as we are, and who now get it, who are willing to advocate with us. I will tell you, when we first started talking about it, you had people who were like, yeah, I'm on board. But when we start talking about, sometimes you can end up becoming like a martyr, so to speak. You know, when you really start thinking about what we go through to advocate for our rights, you got a white person who's saying, I'm going to support you, I'm going to come alongside you. You need to know what this fire really looks like. And are you really ready to go with us? And you have a lot of people who say, yeah, I'm going with you. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, until they really start understanding how it can really impact their lives. And when they really take a sit back and say, well, dang, if I'm advocating for this and this is not the way that the company is going, then I could lose my job, right? And then they in a situation where we are like, well, I ain't trying to lose my job over this. I mean, I think it's wrong that you getting treated like this, but I don't want to lose my job.
Okay, so Robert, you talking about somebody that lost their job, and Gary, I'm gonna throw it down to you. Colin Kaepernick said, I'm gonna go ahead and lose my job.
Yeah.
So Gary, being you know, my eyes are legend, man. I looked at you when I was playing football at Cathedral. Trust believe me, bro. But when everything, a lot of that movement, you know, was felt, and something that we hadn't probably seen in a long time was athletes really making this visible and really getting some fire started. What were your thoughts, you know, just kind of experiencing that, and maybe what are some things you've had to go through to make it?
One, I mean, Colin Kaepernick losing his job is a lot easier when you got $30-40 million in the bank, right? So this is not exactly the same.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? It's a little different, but still no, right? I mean, starting quarterback, very prestigious position, had a bunch of, you know, probably left $100 million on the table just as a quarterback. So still, you know, kind of like that martyr, like she was talking about. I think this is something that's challenging, right? There are certain rules and systematic racism that just exist. So at some point, you just have to learn how to navigate within it. Because while we want to change it, you got to first be in position to change it. So until we get in those positions to actually change it, we got to navigate and move in a way. And some of these things that occur could actually be beneficial to us if we take advantage of it. So I think for me, more importantly, I mean, I get the same thing, right? You're a celebrity, so you get pulled over there and know who you are. I get the guns on the side of the hip, right? So all that stuff matters. But the thing is, you just got to know what you're dealing with. Obviously, we're going to continue to fight for it. But my belief is, like, if we're not in positions of power, if we don't have the economic resources, this is going to be very challenging for us to fight. Because we're always going to need allies. We're always going to need other people to help us out. So until we get in positions where enough of us have the economic power to actually come together and then start our own stuff and do our own things, then we're just going to continuously telling them, you know, how much they shamed us, right? So for me, it's just like, I get it. It's like, I just figure, like, what you focus on expands. And for me, I just want to focus on solutions. I just want to focus on being in the right rooms where I can make an impact and I can make my voice heard. And I think this is how I navigate it, right? I think this thing has to get fought from people who need to protest, you know, we need to do all these things, right? But we all need to kind of work together, like I said, to that outcome that we want. And if that outcome is equity, how do we get there? You know, it's a little bit of everything. So I think everyone has to play their part, and whatever position it is that you can play, you just got to do it to the best of your ability.
Gary,
I have a question for you. When you say get into those rooms, I mean, I've heard pretty much everybody mention this. So go back to our youth, right? Like, what programs do you know that are in place that we can push, whether it's in schools or outside of schools or just within the community period, that can introduce these particular job interests for our youth, for young Black people, getting them interested in work in government, in radio, and different things like that? How do we set them up or grab their interest or to bring them along? Because I know that a lot of you think that's too much for me. I can never do that. Or it's gonna, you know, they may not have that example in their family of someone in those roles or in those positions. So how do we, or what do we have in place, or could we do to start to introduce that to our youth, to get them to have an interest in becoming one of those people in that room or at that table in those spaces?
Yeah, I think CLD, I think here locally, I hear great things about them.
That
Their
is, my son
initiatives.
graduated CLD.
Yeah, no question. I think Frederick Yates is like the principal at a school. I forget the name of it downtown. Tinley schools. So I think there's some organizations where people are gaining exposure. So I think at some point we have to put the work in ourselves, and we have to actually search for what's available. Because I know I'm leaving a lot of things out, but for me, you know, while I agree media is the play, we need to, you know, get exposure. Like, this is the most powerful thing known to man, right? You can people run $100 million companies off of this. So if they can play video games all day, they can search YouTube all day and learn how to code, learn how to build websites, you know, learn how to build NFTs. So just like, you know, at some point they have to like figure out what it is they're focusing on. And if they switch their focus to say, all right, cool, I'm gonna start learning skills, bro, YouTube is free. So I think it's just about, you know, having that desire and being able to search for those type of things, going to the library. Yeah, a lot of times it's going to take someone to kind of strike that interest or start that inspiration somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think once that started, I think they have to take the initiative amongst themselves to go out and kind of want to learn more.
Exposure too. Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I know for me, drive up Meridian Street. That's all. That was it. As a kid, like, what did they do to live here? Well, if I didn't drive up that street, I would have never been exposed to that. So I think a lot of time, you know, let's take the kids and hang out at Gary Brackett's crib. I bet you they get some inspiration.
Right.
You know, seeing his trophies and, you know, all that. That's pretty inspiring. So I think it's what you're exposed to, or exposing children to that. You never know what's going to make that light bulb go off in their heads.
Right. I think exposure is definitely necessary, but it also, I think we need to be mindful of what we're exposing to or the intention behind it. Because there was a lot of comments and that we talked about, you know, everyone plays a part. Like, I agree with that, Gary, but we've talked about getting to the money and everything else, and everyone wants to be financially stable. But honestly, I think a lot of people are operating out of fear. And because of that, operating out of fear, I don't know if I should go protest because now I might get arrested, and now that jeopardizes, you know, how I get my bills paid or providing for my family. And a lot of times when you look back at history, you've seen our grandparents, great grandparents, anyone that protested, you know, they fought for the greater good and just took the L because they knew something greater down the line was going to come from it. And I don't think people today want to or just are scared of the possibility of what could potentially come from that. So yeah, I think people are looking to be financially stable and are looking to have inspiration, but is the inspiration coming to gain self-wealth, or is it for generational wealth and to seeing the well-being of our communities down the line?
Both. Again, I think you need both. I think some people are in position, I'm sure, you know, that Gary has inspired people just by being out there on the field. And then there's that direct thing where people have I think it's a little bit, you know, who can say that Michael Jackson, he's influenced my life. I mean, I do things a certain way because of the standard of Motown. So it comes from all kinds of different direct. I think you're absolutely right. I think it could come from just about anywhere.
And being native of Indianapolis, once upon a time, that's what Black Expo was for me, in terms of providing all those outlets, Greek Step Downs, seeing all those businesses. I've been in Black Expo, the art, it was all right there. You know, the conferences where we had the time to sit down and assess ourselves. That's the part like we forgot. It wasn't just about the businesses. It was about us finding a way to get together and meet and figure out how we can usher our power. I wanted to, again, Kane, you said what organizations, Arnetta Scruggs with the Bloom Project, good friend of mine, this on February 19th, a good friend of mine, Brandon Randall, and with Voices Corp, I believe, True Dialogue, Part 6. This is an opportunity to listen to the kids directly and the youth directly. That's February 19th, 2025 on Eventbrite. So if you guys wanted to see that, Ladies and gentlemen, we are drawing to a close. For those who have tuned in, we definitely appreciate it. Guys, I'm out here at Fishers Municipal City Hall. Rebecca Robinson, who is one of the visual artists for the Black Lives Matter mural, just walked by. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge her. But before we do, guys, I just want to go around the horn. First of all, thank you, and have everybody just kind of give a closing remark. Something like a slight benediction. This is about, how everything was. And close. We start with you, Kane.
Okay, well, I'll say this. I want to say thank you to all of you all, because I have definitely taken in a lot of wisdom. So this has been great for me. And it's things that, like, we've started a non-for-profit, so things that I plan to take back to one of the tables that I'm lucky to sit at and be a part of, and so that I can do my part. So I just want to say thank you. This has been giving for me as well. So I'm happy. I appreciate the opportunity, and I do really look forward to doing this again. So.
Yeah, and your homie Leonard been saying what's up, and who's on the Facebook line. So I'm so proud of you, shouting out where you from. But thank you, Leonard.
Thank you, Leonard.
Gary or Robin, whoever, you got your mute off, so you go ahead.
Oh yeah. So for me, I think this isn't a spectator situation, right? We need more people to get involved. And I think the number one reason people give up is they don't think their voice means anything. They don't think their voice has power. And I want to assure you that it does. Even if you inspire that one individual that's gonna, go out and believe in themselves, or you're gonna change that one law at your job. I mean, I get it. We're tired, right? But this ain't the time to quit. We have to unite. I know we get tired of fighting, but we gotta fight, right? And I think this thing ain't going away no time soon. And I don't care how many legislation they're gonna pass, right? If enough of us speak up, if enough of us do all that we can move the needle. And maybe not in our generation, but maybe in our kids or our kids' generation, we could finally reach, the ultimate goal, which is that equity, that inclusion that even Martin Luther King talked about in his speech.
Great point. We definitely got to build the tools for him. Kelly Vaughn.
Oh, wow. Buy media. That's buy your messages and put them out there. So whether it's social media, radio, television, and that would be my message. Really is to understand the power in the messages that we put out there. So whether it's through music, through news, through hosting a show, and what we're doing now, it's the same thing. But the beauty is getting in front of the masses with those messages. And sometimes it does require for us to spend money. And I think we've always waited on them to do that. And if you leave it to them, sometimes it gets out there, sometimes it doesn't. But as I got older, I realized, okay, we can create the movie about Oscar Robertson. We don't have to wait on the guy that did the movie Hoosiers to create that movie. It's time for us to do that. And we want them to be fair, but until they are, we need to create those messages.
Say that. Use our power. Absolutely. Sister Robin Coleman from Hallville.
Well, I think I'll just leave my closing notes on the focus, which was resiliency, and which is a big part of what I do on a day-to-day basis as a nurse. I believe so much in self-care. I think with all the vicarious trauma that we experience in the Black community from the things that we witness on a day-to-day basis, or our own personal experiences with racism, and even just intergenerational trauma that we learn about from our family or whatnot, or what we see taking place. Like, it's important to make sure you do self-care and being intentional about it, putting it in your day every day, making some time for you, but also making sure that you are being mindful of others, trying to make sure that you are empathetic when you're engaging with people, no matter what race they are, race, ethnicity, or whatnot, and just meeting people where they are, because until we can be respectful, more respectful with each other, regardless, and try to see things from other people's perspective, then that barrier is always going to exist. So in light of real resiliency, make sure we do some self-care for ourselves and that we're empathetic with the people that we engage with.
And the words of Ric Flair, woo, the word, man, I told you, I knew it. I was looking forward to this day. Man, I'm full of the Black History Month spirit. No, I'm so serious, man. I got my good friend here, one of my best friends since high school. And I tell you, guys, I really would love to perform, but we're out of time. But this performer over here in Fishers, I was really invoked by the messages that I grew up listening to Martin, listening to Malcolm, listening to Marcus, and all these people that I feel like people feel like, oh, it's the same old people that we learned about, just the same old people that we learned about. If you really learned about these people, and not just people that you see on the wall, and really dig in, and one thing that you're going to find common to every person that you think you learned about is a sacrifice and a struggle that you haven't had yet. Is a sacrifice that you haven't made yet. You know, I'm 38. And when I think about my heroes like Martin and Malcolm, they really didn't even get a chance to live past 40 with children. And so everything that our panel said today, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this one because this was incredible. I wanted to thank our guests because we got Candace Coleman. If you guys go back and look at this chat, Candace Coleman been going off. I'm talking about, yes, man, we definitely had PTSD. Mama didn't do nothing. But great panel, and thank you for your caring. And so, guys, we were definitely connected, about 25 viewers strong, and they're sharing it. So we had a great time tonight. Thank you, Veronica Watkins, and thank you, Vaughn, and thank you, Tamika. We loved and missed you tonight. This conversation would have blown you away, but we are so grateful that Ashmack was able to step in. And what would you like to say?
I just want to say thank you to everyone's time. You know, this was truly a great conversation. Let it not be the last conversation that we have, and let the next step be strategy and action. If there's anything I can help you guys with, please reach out to me. And also, let's continue to not be scared of our calling or living in our true purpose. I know a lot of times society tells us so many different ways how to live, especially being Black in America, how to live, but it's that little gut feeling that, you know, we got to do better at listening to create the change that we truly deserve and live the lives that we truly deserve. So we have it in us because we're resilient, okay? So we just got to continue to do the work.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we carry the Moselle Sanders Thanksgiving Day Telethon in November, and we need a female announcer on the show. We have Tony Lamont, we have Jerry Waits. We would love to have you be a part of that, that effort if you're open to it. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. Let me know. I'm more than able and willing to help because we got to. It starts with us right here at this discussion.
Right. So I have my people call your people. Okay.
This is live networking, but see, we still don't see P time because we over and we still networking. That's what I'm talking about. You got to be resilient. We don't care that it's 8:30. We making our own time.
We making deals.
It's all good. We gonna look. I got here late, so we're gonna start late. We got 3 more minutes. How about?
Don't cheat the people.
So again, thank you so much. And I saw Tookie Murphy. Thank you for your comments, and again, everybody that y'all go get something to eat.
Can I plug TV 40 real quick? We're on Comcast, Bright House, Dish, Uverse, and please watch us. We just had Gary on a couple of weeks ago. Did a piece on him with a show called "Playing for Keeps" with Milt Thompson. I don't know if a lot of you know Milt. He's a long-time Indianapolis sports attorney. Has a show with us. We have Janice and Diana Rice Wilkerson on what is their show? I forget what the Home and Finance Show. We have Raising the Roof, 2 African-American women encouraging to build wealth through home ownership. By the way, buy life insurance policy. That's a big part of building generational wealth. And then, so this is a whole nother show. And, but I know Real People, Real Voices, Pastor Jackson of Fervent Prayer, Pastor Moore of Olivet Church. So tune in to do support us. We have more local shows than anybody in the city, state, and probably the country. The best kept secret in Indianapolis. You got to check it out. Channel 3.
Auntie Vine, don't forget NAP with GEB. The show hasn't been created yet, but I'll drop my resume off to you so we can get started. So
there we go. Come on now. I need something to host.
Let's network. Job.
we carry Circle City Classic Parade too, and now we have the Moselle Sanders Telethon, Martin University Telethon. So we got everything. We do a lot of what TLC has done for years with when Amos Brown was alive and Al Hobbs, and so it's a beautiful thing.
Now see again. Now you about to make me pour libations. So shout out to Amos Brown and those guys. A lot of influence on the guys. I told you I didn't want to leave tonight, but Vine, you're just gonna have to shut us off. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we out.